Welcome back to the Trendcrusher podcast. I'm Peter K, aka Trendcrusher. This episode is an Indian metal special. First up, I'm playing a single by a new Indian band, and then is an interview with another one. Before I play the single, as you would have read in the episode title, I'm featuring Midhaven on this episode. Now, Midhaven are a band that I've known for a while. They're Mumbai based metal act. I actually wrote about them almost 10 years ago on n87.in. Yeah, it's been that long. So it was great to meet up with Aditya, Mohanan, and Karan Kaul of Midhaven and have a chat with them. More on that just in a second. To kickstart this episode, here's a new act called Splinter. Now, they're an old school thrash metal act based in Pune and Kolkata, and they hit me up and said that they'd like me to play their single. Their single is titled Kill the Parasite, so here it is. And that was Kill the Parasite by Splinter. I don't know about you, but I definitely got a mix of both Bay Area thrash, but also South American, like old school Sepultura vibes from this track. If you enjoyed Kill the Parasite, stay tuned to Splinter. I'm going to leave their social media details in the show notes. They're working on their debut EP, which will be out later this year, so keep an eye out for that. Moving on in the episode, as I mentioned earlier, I caught up with Aditya Mohanan and Karan Kaul of Midhaven. A couple of years ago, they released their album The Lotus and the Thunderbolt in 2021 to be specific. And I feel it went under the radar to a certain extent, especially mine. You can't blame anyone. There was just so much music that came out in 2021. In the past couple of weeks, they've been putting out live videos of tracks from the album. So I caught up with them and discussed the album, playing live again, and much more. So here's my chat with Aditya and Karan of Midhaven. All right, so I'm sitting here with Aditya and Karan from Midhaven. How's it going, guys?
Hi, Peter. Nice to see you after a long time.
It was weird when I was thinking about it, and I have to give a shout out to Richard from Sheltered Life PR, right? Because he dropped an email, and I was like, this is strange. I'm getting an email from a guy sitting in the UK about a band who literally is like living almost in my neighborhood, right? So I was like, I think we need to switch this up and meet in person. So first of all, thanks for taking time out. I mean, I know it's a Friday, so it's like
it's great seeing you in a subco in a coffee shop.
I know, yeah. So let's contextualize it. We're in a coffee shop, so obviously we're gonna have some interruptions and stuff.
Indian filter coffee.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was also cool to just kind of see, right? Because one of the things is you guys released your album, and I think it got lost, if I may say, in just like all the releases that came out in 2021.
Yeah, pretty much. It was just a backlog. We were ready with it in 2020, and we had to hold up because the world shut down,
Yeah, so take me back to that time, right? Because for a lot of people, I mean, let me get this correct. Like for a lot of people, there's like mixed memories, right? Like some people just had like a great time in 2020, 2021. I spent a lot of time with my son, with my wife, talking to a lot of musicians. But for a lot of people, like especially musicians, they just didn't know what to do with themselves, right?
Bad time.
Yeah.
Bad time. I mean, it was a bad time because a lot of, I mean, of course, apart from the darkness that came with the pandemic, I think a lot of musicians realized that, I mean, apart from the fact that there's also no gigs happening, there's no like live source of like income happening, I think a lot of people really started to reevaluate their relationship with music. And for me personally, that was the time I realized I sucked. So I put in the practice. It's the extra time I got.
Okay. So since we're doing this and we haven't introduced, the one who sucked is Aditya. Just to clarify, in case people mix it up. But yeah, I mean, like you guys released The Lotus and the Thunderbolt in 2021. We're talking like at least a couple of years later. How does it feel looking back at that entire experience?
It feels nice, but at the same time, we sort of, it felt like we shot ourselves in the foot because, I mean, the world shot ourselves in the foot because the album was ready in 2020. We were ready with everything in 2020 and we held on to it because we knew that there was nothing to do, hoping for like a gigging season or touring season to pick up in 2021. That didn't happen.
So hard. We didn't even know what was happening for the most part. I think we were ready to release by April 2020.
Yeah.
And I don't think we really saw this thing coming, and I think in Jan, like reports start coming out like, oh yeah, there's this like mysterious little pandemic floating about, there's people dying in Wuhan, and before you know it, in the blink of an eye, bam, I'm stuck in like one like a 2 BHK in London somewhere. This guy's cooped up in his flat in Cupid, and I think Avi's in Delhi.
Avi's in Delhi, yeah.
And we're all in like different places. We don't know what to do with this. Everything, like it was so painfully rehearsed, like, how we're gonna release the whole thing. And
And we
all of a
worked 2
sudden-
years on it. That's the
Yeah.
that's the thing.
No, so we took 2 years to compose it.
Yeah, 1 year to record it.
And 1.5 year to record it.
Yeah.
And the artwork in itself took about 8 to 9
Yeah,
months.
there you go.
Just like multiple iterations being floated back and forth. And,
Gaurav is amazing.
and everything was finally ready at the cusp of our release, and bam, before you know it, the pandemic hit. So I think we were really caught off guard. We didn't know what to do with
March
that.
10th, the pandemic hit India, and April, our album was ready.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you do about that?
So wait, there's a lot you said, and I want to break down all of that in our conversation.
Yeah.
But let's hit a pause button
Sure.
here and go all the way back to 2014, right?
Sure, yeah.
Because that's where we go back, at least you and me, Karan.
Yeah.
And we were talking prior to hitting record that in 2014, I had just a couple of years before that also left N87.
Yeah.
But I was still kind of doing some writing for them on the side, and I got an email from Sahil Makija, aka Demon Stealer, that, oh, hey, there's this band Midhaven, and I was like, wait, there's a Bombay band that I don't know about, and y'all were being released by Universal Music India at that time, right? So I was like, hey, interesting concept, got the album. I was like, let me pitch it to N87. Abhimanyu Mir, who is the sub-editor at that time, or commissioning editor, I don't know. It's been
one of them.
he was basically the guy who gave me the green light to say, okay, you write about this. And I remember writing about the album, and it's so strange because I have such vivid memories of writing that article.
Yeah.
Like it was almost like day before yesterday.
9 years ago.
It was 9 years ago. So I was reading that and I was like, oh man. So this, I think, is where a lion's share of the conversation is going to be yours, Karan. Take me back through like post that, because let's be honest, right now it's a completely different band.
Completely. So it's just Aviraj, the drummer, and I that have sort of like, I mean, Midhaven's always been like sort of my baby, my project, but 2014 was I was literally a child. Like, if you really want to know, I was a kid. I was a 19-year-old like child. I had my opinions weren't completely formulated, but I had visions of this music, and we wrote this with a completely different outlook to life. So when Aviraj and I did write the album and put shit down together, we were kids, we were children. I would literally say children. And now today, with the addition of Aditya, like the whole dynamic changed when Aditya joined. So we had Abhishek Sawant and Shreyas Rane who were a big part of the band, and there were differences in how we approached life. So that sort of after Universal's contract, etc., we made our own ways in life, and we split. But Aviraj and I knew that there was something missing, that it can't always just be me and him, and a huge part of that was missing. Which when I asked Aditya to join, it changed everything about the record. It changed everything about the music. It changed everything about the meaning of the music. Everything that I felt was he felt his own version of what this record should be, what music should be, what Midhaven, the entity of it is. So it obviously it's like you're talking to a different person right now. It's like two different people. So when I spoke to you for that interview, I remember that very clearly, and I remember everything about it. Like, it was just somebody who had hopes of like metal in India, and the whole Devraj scene, and Universal really trying to push metal heavy.
I mean, and for context, right? Because it's so strange to even talk about this time, because it's a completely different time, right?
Of course.
That's a time where literally, if you wanted to buy CDs of your favorite Indian metal band, and Universal, if I remember well, because we were just recounting it, there was Demonic Resurrection, Reptilian Death, Koshish, Reverse Polarity, you guys, you could just buy it off Amazon, or you could go to the store.
A moment for me was I grew up buying music at Rhythm House. I grew up buying music at Rhythm. My father would take me Saturday, Sunday, let's go buy music at Rhythm House. One of Dad's things was he would look for his father's movies. My grandfather was a director, so I just happened to be there after Universal released the music, and I'm standing over there and I see Midhaven, and I think that was a moment where I shat myself. I was like, what? And they had Midhaven out there at Rhythm House. That was a defining moment for like, oh shit, this is where it's going. And then a couple of years later, Rhythm House shuts down, and the whole world turns into a streaming platform. So it's kind of wild that whole energy, that whole side of the world doesn't exist anymore.
I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, right? Because I remember I was not in the country. I think I'd come down for like Christmas break or something, and I knew Rhythm House was shutting.
Yeah, I cried.
I have a picture. I had a friend. We went there. She took a picture of me outside Rhythm House. I bought my last CD there, and I still hold it. And I'm like, because similar to you, man, I grew up going to Rhythm House, and the thing is, I lived in another part of town, so coming to Rhythm House was like a pilgrimage. You had to do not just only visit Rhythm House, but also you'd basically be going to like say a movie or something like that. So you'd kind of like club all of that together. But okay, moving forward, when did you guys start like the early days of writing the album, right?
This one or
I'd rather focus on the Lotus and the Thunderbolt. Tell me about that.
Thank you. So I'm gonna like just I would like to hear Aditya's words as well on this, because your take is so different from mine. But we actually, when I asked him to join the band, he was with a death metal band called Kill Chain, and this guy was like this young, full of testosterone, like playing lead, like oh let's headbang and go crazy kind of dude, and had these beautiful leads. And I remember going, we need a lead guitarist that has defined, a defined like characteristic. Okay, this is me. This is what I'm not just offering. This is what I'm bringing to the table, and this is who I am. And I remember him joining, and we just clicked, like first and foremost as friends. I think that really defines our music. We were great friends from the day like we met, and I think that's a huge part of it for me. And Aviraj and all three of us just got along, just in seconds, and I really enjoyed that process of it. So when we did start taking off the Lotus and Thunderbolt, it wasn't like we didn't have a plan. This is going to be the record. Music just came to us, and we were we said this before many times. It's like we're like the conduit and how it came to. It's like the universe like made it happen, and it just all happened to be. So it's.
But okay, so now I want to hear his version of it, right? Like, did you know of Midhaven before joining? What did you kind of know it, and like, what was that kind of?
I think so. I met Karan at this random this random college fest, okay, happening at NMIMS, and I was participating in the Guitar Wars competition over there, right? And this guy, Abhishek Sawant, who was the bassist of Midhaven, they were benching the thing, the judging, right? And for reasons unknown to me, I came first.
I met him that day, man.
And that was one hell of a day, right? Like that's when I'm like, oh shit, like I met these guys. I bought a CD. I discovered Midhaven that day, and I think I'm just gonna gloss over the details or whatever. But the rest of the things that happened.
Remember, fuck BBM. What's happening?
Let's not go to that. It's really funny though. But anyway, I think cut to like I kept running into Karan, man. After I met him, I kept running into him. I ran into him like at a CAD, at like metal gigs. Ran into him randomly, like
metal awards.
Yeah, like like some restaurant one day out of the blue, and then one day, I wake up to like a Facebook text back when Facebook was still relevant. I woke up to a message from Karan saying like, hey, I'm reforming Midhaven in a new shape, in a new light, and I want the next album to be very different. I'm planning a tour, blah blah blah, and I've just lost 2 members, so I'm looking for someone who can commit to the band. And I was already into the whole like spellbound like. Actually, I really dug the first album, not gonna lie. But there were points where I was jamming to the first album, Spellbound, on my own, sort of like soloing over certain bits. So I kept telling him down, and I was like, I think I could, like, subliminally reinforcing. I'm sure that's why he hit me up. But so I think when he finally hit me up, I went over to his place and he showed me a couple of riffs and I picked them up.
Which turned to a completely different song, by the way.
Completely different song. And I started making my own iterations of it. And I think the process was so seamless.
Yeah.
It was so organic, so intuitive that I think everyone sort of felt it. And even when I met Aviraj for the first time and we went into the jam room, something about how hard he hits and how like, ghost notes at weird spots, like, it just really worked with the way I present my riffs. I think all in all, like the band, we had to put in almost no work. There had to be no adhesive. It's sort of all like it fit so well, so intuitively.
Well, come back to what comes back to what I was saying. Like it didn't feel like there was a real process of like we went in and said this is what this song is gonna be. It just like I'll give you an example. Lakshman Parshuram, right? We were in his house. I plugged into his kitchen, took his fridge out.
Poor guy suffered so much because of us.
Because I took my amp head, plugged into his kitchen like outlet, unplugged his fridge, and a 9-minute song came out in like 5 minutes. You know what I'm trying to say? Like, of course it wasn't 5 minutes, but
You took a 15-minute shit in the middle. Comes out of the bathroom with his guitar. He's like, bro, check this riff out. I'm like, what were you doing?
so and then but these things came to be seamlessly. It was just they all weave together like magically. So there is something about this friendship dynamic that made the music happen.
Okay, so since you've been dominating the conversation, I'm going to turn into you. I'm kidding. What was the first song where you kind of realized, and both of you actually frankly can take this, where you'll realize that, this is where we're going, now let's try and explore this far more, maybe in an album. I mean, like, except the 9-minute song, but it's okay.
Except the 9-minute song.
I think we'll end the episode with
That
that.
was the one giant shit.
But actually, I don't think there's any song that can be pinpointed to. I'm sorry, I know that's not what you're looking for right now. But I think what was happening parallelly as we're writing these riffs, as we're writing this music, is we're discussing the concept that sort of weaves all these songs together. And I think we were going through a very interesting stage in both our lives actually, where we were really contemplating, our existence. It was an existential time, but it was also like you can characterize it as a very spiritual era. Honestly, I don't like to throw that word around a lot, but like there's no other word that can do this emotion justice.
You're attaching it to like white girl spirituality.
Yeah. No, but like honestly, that was the sentiment that was tying everything together. So like I'd write the riff for like say Primal Song, which is the song that has a music video, and say you we approach the riffs for like Code Man, which is like this kind of rock and rolly kind of metal song that's happening, or if you have the 9-minute long Zhitro, everything sort of weaved together by the discussion of these concepts that and eventually it's the concept that led us to club certain riffs and sections together and be like, this is one song, this is the other song, this is the other song, and that's what led us to order the songs in the way that's what led us to write the lyrics in the way that we ended up writing them. So everything was sort of tied together by the concept, which is why it's also called Of the Lotus and the Thunderbolt. It's got an esoteric or semi-tantric connotation to it.
Okay, hold that thought, right? Because I have a actual. I actually found a quote I used to description in the article years ago, right? So I'll come back to that.
Sure.
But to just kind of sum up what you said, what would be a great song to introduce the listeners to this new version of Midhaven, you would say?
You don't want to hear the 9-minute track, but it's the 9-minute track.
It's the 9-minute.
It's called Zhitro.
It's called.
That's the song.
It's called Zhitro.
So okay.
For all listeners, grab your favorite beverage. If you're listening to this while washing your dishes or
favorite jog.
go for your favorite jog,
Rumpelstiltskin can wake up like 100 years later.
here's the 9-minute track, Zhitro. Okay, if you're still here after that entire track, welcome back to this episode. I've still got Aditya and Karan, and obviously we've not heard the 9 minute track, so we're still laughing around. But yeah, I mean, I want to go like there are a couple of other things that you touched upon earlier about the entire process of the album, which I want to break down. But since you talked about the esoterical part, right? And now in retrospect, I'm wondering why I wrote that line.
Yeah.
When I wrote about Spellbound, because y'all combined like the whole metal and raga thing.
Yeah.
And the best known example I know and actually is still active is a band called Rudra.
Yeah. Oh, you mean from Singapore?
Yeah, but they do it like on the nose, right? Like they're not like,
Vedic metal.
they're like
Yeah.
proper Vedic metal on the nose.
Shlokas.
The shlokas, if you see their videos, it's also like straight up Mahabharat and all of that, right? Yeah. I mean, one of their albums.
We haven't taken that. We haven't actually taken that.
No, but that's what I'm saying, right? So, like, again, if you look at it, like, Kurukshetra is actually one of Rudra's albums,
Yeah,
right?
and based on the Kurukshetra. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, going back to what I was saying, first of all, it's having that sound, doing that, but also finding the right people to kind of
Yeah.
there. And that's where I feel like, you guys got Apurva Agarwal, who, again, like, I've done episodes with him in the past, right? And he's the guy literally who I say that entire Bombay hardcore or all those kind of associated sounds in there, he's kind of doing it. So, how come you guys got him who's known for this sound? But B, then you'll also got Forrester Savell,
Yeah.
who's known for like way different music. So tell me, like, it's one thing when you're in your jam room kind of doing it, but then like now getting outsiders involved, so to say, how do you kind of make that right choices?
Apur was very like a straightforward decision.
Yeah.
We wanted someone who works well with analog.
Yes.
That was our main concern at that point. We weren't too concerned with the kind of music we were making. We weren't concerned with the fact that yes, there are very Indic elements. There's some classical folk element thing is happening in the album. We weren't really looking at it like that. Fundamentally, at the core of it, it's a heavy metal album, and we wanted someone who could nail analog, and that's where Apurv came in because he's a master at like recording analog. Honestly,
Big amps, pedals, like that's
Yeah,
that's where we want to
straight
go, dude.
I was like, Apurv, I want a drone. I want to sound like a drone.
Yeah.
What can we do?
Anyway, I got your back.
And that's one of the things, like, in all my conversations I've had with Apurv, right? Like, he has this great ear,
Yeah.
but he also has like this depth of knowledge.
He does.
Yeah.
He really
And
does.
super humble dude also, man. Like that's what like ties all of it together, you know.
Very humble, very easy to work with.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and like I feel like we spent so much time with him in the studio, especially this guy. Like, and we all developed our own language. One day Karan looks at Apurv and goes like, I want a tone that sounds like wet fire. And Apurv understood exactly what that
He looks
meant.
at me and he goes, fine.
I was like, I got you, bro. You know, so like working with Apurv was like honestly, like when I personally, so Aviraj knows Apurv, they're quite tight.
Yeah.
And Karan's known Apurv a little bit in the past. I hadn't met Apurv before we started recording, but even after I met him for the first time, like it was such an intuitive process working with him. Like, you know, honestly, I'm so glad like just we went with that guy. He did so much justice. He was so easy to work with, and all the stems came out so well with that guy. You know, I think Forrester is something Karan should explain.
Forrester was actually Aviraj. So Avi and I sort of grew up like sort of listening to a lot of what Forrester has produced.
Same.
So yeah, I'm sure you did as well.
Yeah, you can't escape him.
You can't. And we sort of loved how he had. So Avi's whole element was I love how he handled the drums. I love how he handled the guitar's relationship with the drums. Like sonically, how he's like sort of placing them in that sonic sphere. And when we spoke about this as the trio, we could have realized that, okay, we're going to invest in this. Let's go for someone who can speak freely too. So when we did check out his discography, what he had worked on, it just fit. It just felt right. I'm literally going to say this. It felt right at the time. The vibe was right, and we trusted our gut instinct that, okay, this sounds right, we're going to go for it. There was no beyond the research or talking to him. We had a quick call, and then we took a call after the judgment call was right after that. Okay, I think I like him or I don't like him, and that's pretty much it. he did give us the benefit of the doubt and like give us a couple of more revisions than usual, but that was really nice of him. But yeah, I mean, I think he cleaned it up beautifully, man. I think he made the album sound gorgeous.
Super friendly dude to work.
Yeah,
honestly.
super.
So then, which brings me to the, I guess the piece that everyone kind of sees more, which is the artwork. And you guys got Gaurav Basu, aka Acid Toad. Tell me about that. I mean, like, was there a brief?
I mean, because a brief with Gaurav about the music and the artwork and the concept.
I don't think a brief does justice.
Bro, listen.
like
Okay,
what that was.
I'm gonna say this again. Gaurav Basu and we went on multiple calls. I'm talking about 25, 30 different huge discussions on what it should be, his first iterations and like what he had revised to do, and he really understood the vibe. The guy listened to the music to a point of where he started making artwork when what he was listening to.
Yeah.
We had to reach that conclusion. That's why we understood that he had to take time. You know, like with the time came like almost perfection of what he wanted to do.
Yeah.
He could
time and also like the depth, man. This guy embodied the album.
Yeah.
You know, honestly, the discussions we were having were not very sober, sane discussions. If you were on that call, you'd be like, what is up with these nut jobs? Like, you know, what are they talking about? Like,
yeah, at some point it's like so meaningful, sometimes so abstract, you can't tell anymore, you know?
Honestly, like, and the kind of references we're throwing at him, like 13th century Tibetan, like, Thangka painting, like, you know, like, what is happening, my god, like, you know, and like, he's sending us back, like, some Burmese, like, Javanese painting from the 1700s, like, you know,
Yeah.
and this is the kind of, like, shit you'll go through when you go through a WhatsApp group, look in the chat, you know, and honestly, like, I feel like more than anything, he's such a skilled, such a versatile listener. I cannot emphasize this enough. That guy genuinely like engaged with the concept.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a microcosm of concepts. If you like sit down and actually tear the artwork apart, there's so many things happening there. It's microcosmic in like scale, like, you know, that's how we want to approach it. It's like it can stupefy the viewer, but also there's a lot more than just meets the eye, you know. And I think no one else could have pulled it off the way this guy.
Each song is in the artwork.
Each song is there.
Like you read between multiple. There's too many lines to read between. Like it's so
Literally.
much.
I mean, like, it's strange, right? I mean, you guys did this a couple of years ago, but like right now in 2023, we're talking where literally bands are just getting AI to make like videos and AI artwork and stuff, and I'm just like, I don't know, right? And when you see something like what you guys have done, for me, like, I'll preface what I'm going to say with this statement, right? Like, for me, the true value of art, whether it's music, poetry, whatever, is just how long it kind of is relevant for, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, honestly, like, all this AI art that's being produced right now.
I don't have a take on it yet. I don't have a take on it yet. I feel like what I mean, if AI will never be able to do what like Basu did.
Of course. I mean, I don't think that's even like.
It's not even in the same
even remotely possible
Yeah,
yet.
yeah. But I'm saying
Maybe in
like
the future, I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
what Gaurav did was literally embody the music with like visuals. Like it's legit that.
And I think that's one of the things about like going back to the Rhythm House discussion that we had.
I would see an artwork and I would lose my mind.
And that's, I think there's a certain amount, and I like, of course, say that, and of course I'm making like a very broad statement here, but for a lot of metalheads, it's not just about, you know, the music.
No.
I mean, like, everyone still does. There's a reason why you'll buy the t-shirt, buy a poster, buy ancillary merchandise around it, because that artwork really cool, and it's not just about, you know, I'm supporting it. It's like, I love this so much that I'm gonna like stick it, walk around. I mean, like, when I look at a t-shirt, I don't look at a t-shirt as just a t-shirt.
No, of course not.
It's basically a walking poster.
Absolutely.
You represent the artwork.
You're
It's like the
repping
band. Yeah.
And like, so that's the thing, right? It's interesting. I mean, we're talking about art over here, but coming back to what I said about Gaurav, right? When you look at that, we're still having this discussion 2 years later, and I'm sure, like, I don't know, 5 years, 10 years later, you all can still talk about something like this and even go down to it, because another great thing about art is it triggers memories. that's what music does, right? And similar to art. So I'm sure with you guys also, when you look back, you'll 2 years later are still discussing
It's
that
kind of
WhatsApp
weird
group.
taking it live right now because of the 2 years. And we look back at the artwork, and this is the first time I think we've discussed it in a long time, man. Like discussing the artwork. When's the last time we talked about this? It was with Basu, man. The last time we discussed all of the artwork together was properly when we got the album ready. So there's also that element in it.
So you're welcome then, guys.
Thank you, Peter.
But another very interesting thing I wanted to talk about, and I'm surprised I'm bringing it now at this part of the conversation, but the reason why I got that email from Richard of Sheltered Life is one interesting thing that you guys did. And this is where I want to talk about the other aspect of the music, right? Because for a lot of bands, the album or the music ends once you record it. But in 2023, that's not enough, right? You guys did interesting merchandise, which I'm going to have a separate conversation on, just leaving a little teaser for it. But what you'll are doing 2 years later, you'll put out live videos for it. And currently, there are 3 recorded. You'll have released one.
You release one. The second one's dropping
Tomorrow,
on
yeah.
Saturday.
24th.
Yeah, the 24th of June. So we're having this conversation a little early. And then you have one more coming out.
Yeah.
Take me through that, right? Because I'm going back to the conversation you had when you had the album already. You were in 3 separate, 2 separate countries, 3 separate cities.
Yeah.
What is it like now revisiting all of this? Let's take the simple example
Still
of.
in 2 separate countries, by the way.
Wow. Okay. So what was it like? First of all, of course, the most obvious question is because one of the songs you'll released or you'll have recorded a video for is a 9-minute track.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what's that like? But also at some point, were you like, what the fuck did you guys do? Did we go it? So how was it taking that now, at least in a live atmosphere or performing it live in studio now?
Right. So this was shot and recorded in 2021. Let's pick back up where we left off earlier. Okay. So pandemic hit, album released, and we got no action, and we were left high and dry. We wanted to tour with the album. We had such a grandiose plan, and it went nowhere. And in 2021,
Interjection, I went broke.
Yeah, he went broke also because pandemic happened. There was no climax, honestly. We didn't know what to do with this album we'd put out, and honestly, it was quite frustrating. Honestly, we get asked a lot. It was a critically acclaimed album. I'm not trying to suck my own dick, but the work we put into it, people saw the kind of work we put into it. Even revisiting the AI versus Gaurav Basu tangent we went on. When you put that kind of conscious, intentional effort into a work of art, and if people can see the emotion that went into it, that's all an artist wants. It doesn't matter what fame, money, relevance, no one gives a shit as long as you feel like this was in my heart and it's out now and it's being heard, and that feeling was not satiated. So in 2021 I called these bastards up and I was like, listen, come to Bombay, we're recording a live in the studio session because we need to get the album live to the people who've been listening to our music.
And no prospects of gigs, bro.
We were getting asked by people listening, they're like, yo, do you guys have any plans of playing? I'm like, do you have any plans of getting out of your house without a mask? Why are you asking me when we're gonna play, But it kept getting frustrating because I'd listen to the album, I'm working out, I'm doing my thing, I'm listening to the album, I'm like, man, I wanna play this thing, I want my buddies in the jam room, what's happening? So I called them and I forced them into doing this thing live, put together a very brilliant team. Honestly, shout out to Apur, shout out to Jitu, shout out to Mehran. All of these guys, they really Asher, these are the guys who really helped us put this thing together.
Your dad also.
And my father, K.U. Mohanan. We put this together and we I think when it was the second wave, third wave, what happened in 2021?
Second wave happened.
Whatever happened in the mid of 2021, this was shot around/right after then, and immediately after that, Karan got a job, Aviraj got married and moved to Kuala Lumpur, and I was the only one sort of left handling this.
Yeah.
So I was working with my friend Mehran, who also ended up shooting and editing the thing, and it took us about roughly 2 years.
Full DIY, like this part of it.
Everything's DIY,
Yeah.
and it took us 2 years to put out something that was shot in 21. It was meant for a pandemic populace and not for this free spirited world we've come to live in once again.
People are
You
dead
know?
now. People are born like.
But then again, better late than never. Let this be sort of a precursor to.
Yeah.
We're gonna gig incessantly. We're gonna be in people's faces. They're not gonna be able to avoid the name that is Midhaven.
Yeah.
So let this be a precursor to that. That's what I'm gonna say. I hope that answers.
No, fair, because even I was trying to understand it, because like, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but do you remember the time when everyone was doing streaming gigs?
Yeah.
And we consider that.
Yeah, and that's the thing,
Strongly
right?
consider, yeah.
And the thing is, like, there was even a time where, do you remember, where it was like said that this is the future of live music,
my heart broke.
streaming,
Yeah.
and I was like, and now look at the conversation, like, and the thing we're saying, just like,
We like literally just played a gig last weekend, and we're talking about this right now. Like,
Play a gig next weekend.
and that's the thing, right? Like, just see how much has kind of changed in the time just that you recorded this. So there was no, like, this was meant for just as a stopgap, you're saying.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah, but I think the entire journey with this album, the universe has not let us get what we want in the manner that we wanted. So the
It's also
album
been a-
wasn't released the way it was released. The tour didn't happen the way it was supposed to happen. This didn't get released the way it was
I
supposed
mean,
to release. So-
especially the promoters, like who got. I mean, this my heart goes out to them as well more than anything. We're the artists sitting here like on a high horse. Oh, we've come back and all. The promoters lost everything. Man.
Everything.
Like they lost everything. Dude. People we were in talks with, right? I mean, I'm not gonna go and name names, but they lost. They shut down business, man, because of what COVID did. So that's also a big element of it. Like, I'm so happy the world is back in this position today where gigs are now free flowing, and like it's free spirited, full. Everyone's higher their minds on music again.
No, 100%. I mean, like, as someone who used to at one point going to sometimes 2 gigs a week, to just being completely like, okay, resigning to the fact that this is the only way I'm going to be like enjoying the music or seeing the artist.
Watching anything live online.
Yeah. Oh God. Don't even get me started on that. But I was like, how are we gonna do this? And now you have gigs
Yeah.
back in action again, so thank God for that.
Yeah.
But just to kind of wrap up the conversation, and I have to kind of talk to you guys about this merch.
Yeah.
We were having a chat before, Karan, so you could also add to this. Why choose the different kind of merch that you guys?
Do you want me to talk about it straight up? Like,
100%.
so we're printing. We're printing more rolling paper soon.
I mean, I thought it was like, I have to be honest, right? I thought that was a brilliant idea. And I mean, like, I'm tired of like having conversations with bands where basically people are like, oh, people don't buy merch. But I'm like, what is the merch that you're selling? Are you selling the exact same artwork that you had on, say, a poster? Or how are you differentiating? I mean, like, simple plug I'm going to give is a band like Gutslit. They have basically done every possible merch item that you can think about, but then they haven't done rolling papers.
So I mean, I don't want to like be too suggestive here, but we sort of. I mean, I roll my own cigarettes. Let's go there. I roll my own cigarettes and.
Cigarettes.
Yeah, cigarettes. It's all about tobacco. And the cool idea was that, a lot of, I mean, it went on really stoner metal per se. But yeah, there is a fine line between like doom sludge stoner metal.
Yeah.
And we sort of don't really know if we're sludge or doom or stoner metal. So we sort of just like coupled everything together and we wanted a different idea for merchandise. And like Aviraj knew the owner of Slim Jim, where we tied up with him. He'd worked with in the past, and he was a really nice dude. And he metal bands have never done this, and we just fell on the bandwagon of, come on, let's make something crazy. Let's make something like that nobody else has done. I'm talking about like like cones that you can I'm talking about like rolling paper. I'm talking about roach pads. Like we went there with it, and we put all of our artwork in different elements over there. You can buy a Mahakal rolling paper, or you can buy a Bhairav rolling paper. So,
But tell me what.
oh, the Code Man rolling paper is coming soon. Don't worry about that.
Midhaven, papers, roach, and cones. Give us your money.
So there's one thing about like trying something like that.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned, if I'm correct,
pretty good.
you're sold out of it.
Yeah, 2 batches sold out.
What does that say about this country?
What does that say about?
What does that say about how people approach recreation in this country? That's what
I'm glad you took it that way.
All about tobacco, if anyone's
Yeah, it's all about tobacco.
No, but my point was going to be like, what does that say about this state of just like the ways band approach merch, right?
Yeah, but who the people buying merch, man? They want to support your act. They enjoy being alive with your music, right? So it's not this is not catered towards. This is, again, I'm going to say this, like, this is not mass sale, man. This is like really not mass sale. This is an indie metal project. That's where metal, that's the spectrum, like metal state, that's the realm metal exists in India.
I mean, like, again, to kind of wrap up this, right? I remember having a chat with a friend of mine who's not into metal, but would end up going on websites like a Red Wolf and things like that, and be like, oh, I really like this artwork.
Yeah.
Which made me realize that, hey, if you put up something cool, different, someone's just going to buy that t-shirt as a piece of artwork, not because it's my friend's band or XYZ's band and I want to support them. And that's a very different approach and train of thought, right? Which I'm assuming why a lot of Slim Jim customers would have also bought a lot of product.
That's what happened. That's what happened.
I mean, like, that's how I would look at it, right? Like, well, going back to your point, right? Like, is it the metalheads? Is it the
At this
stoners?
point, we don't know. We don't
Yeah.
care.
It's fine, man. I mean,
we sold out.
That's how I look
matters.
at it.
where are your guys' heads at the moment? I mean, like, I know you all talked about playing live and kind of missing that element. I'm actually talking to you all on a weekend where you all don't have a gig, because last weekend you all played a gig.
And
Next weekend you all are playing a gig. Is there new music on the horizon, or you're like still kind of focusing on?
There's riffs that have come up here and there, but there's no real, like, music that's come up yet. I'm sure it'll be there in the future. I know that Aditya and I have sparks again.
That did not need to sound as sexual as it did.
Yes, it did. But what I'm saying is,
Okay then.
what I mean to say is, like,
We are the band and the groupies at the same time. There's a lot of beautiful material that's been sort of written and stored away.
Yeah.
For further use. We're waiting for Aviraj Kumar to come back to India. So if you're listening to this, find Aviraj Kumar and sort of bombard him with messages to come back to India. But the moment he lands up, I think there's going to be a lot more music in the works. We have been floating ideas here and there.
Yeah.
Nothing
It's not been concrete yet,
Nothing
but yeah.
concrete has been composed yet, but there's a lot to write with. So yes, you can expect new music within the coming year for sure.
Yeah. The same thing happened with Of the Lotus The Thunderbolt. We didn't go like, oh, this is a riff, we're going to make a song. This is a riff idea in my head, a riff idea in his head. It just came together one day, and that day will happen when...
Yeah.
It all comes together.
Just no, but there's one thing I'd like to just you asked the question of the live, last weekend, this weekend, where sort of this is the roughage. I like to say that, like, this is the roughage because we haven't been live in any element of like being live. We haven't done that for a while.
Yeah.
Like COVID was 2 years. Then there was a year of recording before that. Then there was a year of writing before that. So we're sort of getting in that flow again. And Aditya and I mean, this guy, like, he has Midhaven is now him also. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So we're on this journey of sort of, I understand Aviraj has a life and got married and like became old.
Fuck. I'm just gonna get like voice notes from him, like.
We did like a fuck you Avi on like stage and I sent it to him.
You post this hashtag fuck you Avi.
Yeah. That's my story.
We do that live.
I said fuck you Avi. People are like fuck you Avi.
Anti-social, there's a crowd full of people who are like fuck you Avi.
One of the best friend Mehran. But yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with the fact that we've taken this step to come back into the element of live music. and that was a big one. I think that was a
Yeah.
really big one.
Honestly.
But when Avi comes back, it all just like it all clicks.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, first of all, thanks so much for taking time out and
Thanks for having
for,
us.
Thank you
for
for
all
having us, man.
still listening and going back to what Aditya said, that you're going to be relentless and people are going to be sick, I guess, of the Midhaven name. So, if you're wondering why that happens, I'm going to put a couple of links in the show notes to their songs that they've released. And yeah, check them out. And yeah, I'm going to leave a link to the Bandcamp. And I'm guessing whenever the rest of the merchandise comes out,
Oh, there's a lot.
we'll update
There's gonna
that.
be more this time.
All you tobacco users, you know.
Tobacco, quote unquote.
All right, man. Thanks again.
Thank you
And
so much.
Thanks for having us.
if you've made it till this part of the episode, this weekend both Midhaven and Splinter are playing separate shows. Midhaven are playing in Bombay. I'm going to leave links to that in the show notes. And Splinter are also playing a show, but in Pune. So we'll leave details to that also. If you're either in Mumbai or Pune, do check out both bands. And yeah, if you want to be like Splinter and have your music played on the podcast, you can get in touch with me, trendcrusher@gmail.com, or just hit me up on any of my social media profiles. It's simple at Trendcrusher. But that's all from me for this week. I'll see you all next week. Cheers.